In a fictional feudal province of Japan, the uneasy balance between the secrets and subplots remained quietly, albeit delicately, settled until the day the regional daimyo discovered the geisha's secret. For these many long years, the daimyo had coveted, consulted, and trusted the geisha. However, during that time, she had secretly despised the daimyo and loved his most loyal samurai in secret. They bore a child 20 years ago, who was now grown into a formidable young man. Upon discovering the geisha's secret relationship, the daimyo raged and dishonored the samurai, ordering him to kill the geisha and commit seppuku. The samurai refused and fought his way free, helping the geisha escape. The samurai was declared a ronin and both were declared fugitives. In hiding, the geisha's son began to spread many of the secrets the daimyo shared with his mother over the years, and the daimyo's honor began to come into question by the city's nobles. Now the shogun is on his way to the city to consult the daimyo and uncover the truth. The daimyo has called upon all of his noble allies and the ronin's main rival to hunt for the geisha and the ronin in hopes of exposing the conspiracy against him. Welcome to the How to Play for Chiyo's Secret. This is a game for 5 to 8 players where you're going to take on a role of a prominent figure in the daimyo's holding. Before we get further into the story, let's go ahead and learn how to set up the game. Game setup. First, place the shogun board in the center of the play area and place the shogun track marker on the shogun track's first space. Next, place the temple establishment board in the center of the area and place the rival and daimyo tiles on it. Separate out the roll cards by their type and build a roll deck according to the number of players according to this chart. For this setup, we will create the deck for 5 players. Shuffle this deck and deal 1 roll card to each player at the table. This is also a good time to give each player a player aid for them to reference. The player who receives the Motonaka card must reveal themselves to the other players at the table. This player then collects the influence cards, the geisha card, ronin card, and the patron cards. Be sure to collect both the full-size and mini patron cards. Take the establishment boards that are noted for the current player count, return the rest back to the box. Shuffle these boards together and deal 1 between each of the noble players at the table. Please note that Motonaka is not considered a noble and is skipped over. Place one of the establishment boards in front of Motonaka to occupy the space between players seated to the left and right of Motonaka. Now the player with the Motonaka roll should build the full-size patron deck by taking out all of the full-size patron cards marked for the current player count. Return the rest to the box. Shuffle these together, forming the patron deck. Randomly deal 3 patron cards face down to each of the establishments, including the temple. This will deal out all of the cards. Shuffle the honor tokens together in a face down pool and place these beside the temple. Take the action markers and suspicion tokens and place them beside the honor pool. Set the initiative cards to the side. All of the players at the table now, except for the Motonaka player, should now look away while Motonaka secretly chooses the geisha and ronin's disguises. Motonaka. First, you should separate the assassin mini cards from the rest of the mini patron deck. From the remaining mini patron cards, take the cards for the current player count and shuffle these. Return the unused cards back to the box. This will form the disguise deck. Leave the assassin cards face up in front of you to be used during the prelude. Now draw 2 cards from the top of the disguise deck. Memorize these and place 1 under the ronin and 1 underneath the geisha in front of you. You may reference these at any time, but they must remain secret from all other players at the table. Motonaka now shuffles the 4 city markers together and places 1 face down over each of the shogun track's final spaces. You may peek at these at any time, but the other players at the table may not look at them. Finally, Motonaka shuffles the influence cards to make the influence deck and places it face down in their player area. Now that setup is complete, it's time to conduct the prelude. The prelude. In your rulebook, you will find a section called the prelude. The player who's taken on the role of Motonaka will need to read this out loud at the table. The other players at the table will start with their eyes closed. Motonaka will be responsible for remembering what they learned during the prelude. If you're not comfortable remembering this information, you may take notes, but you must not let this information fall into the hands of the nobles. Reading aloud. Nobles of the daimyo's holding, please close your eyes. I am Motonaka, broker of information, and I have disguised Chiyo the geisha and Fusunobu the ronin among the patrons at your establishments. I have summoned the shogun to put an end to the daimyo's inquiry, and I will win the day if the shogun reaches the daimyo's stronghold. Allies of the daimyo, keep your eyes closed, but raise your thumb so that I might know you. Allies, put your thumbs back down. Betrayer, keep your eyes closed, but raise your thumb. Betrayer, put your thumb back down. Usurpers, open your eyes and look around you. Now that the usurpers are the ones with their eyes open, choose one of the 3 mini assassin cards in front of you and show it to them. Now tuck this underneath the shogun board. This patron is now the true assassin, which the usurpers will need to win the game. Usurpers, close your eyes. Now all players may open their eyes.
Objectives. Before we go into how to play Chiyo's secret, I want to cover the victory conditions for each player at the table. Daimyo's allies. All of the ally players at the table will win if the true ronin, true geisha, the daimyo, and one or more imperial patrons are present in the same establishment at one time, as long as that establishment is not owned by the betrayer. Betrayer. You will win if the true ronin, true geisha, and the daimyo are ever present together in one of your establishments.
Usurpers. All usurpers at the table will win if the true ronin, the daimyo, and the true assassin are present in the same establishment.
Finally, Motonaka. Motonaka will win if the shogun track marker ever reaches its destiny city marker before any other faction in the game is able to win. Important concepts. Establishment and the temple. Each player at the table is the co-owner of the establishment boards to your left and to your right. Whenever an effect in the game refers to your establishments, it is referring to these establishments that are to your left and right. Each establishment can hold the daimyo token, rival token, and/or any number of patron cards. The area in front of an establishment is reserved for the cards and tokens that are at that establishment. The temple is a special establishment in the center of the play area, which is not owned by any player and is not considered adjacent to any player at the table. It is a sacred place, and players may not move the daimyo, rival, true ronin, or true geisha to it using loyal actions. The geisha, ronin, and their disguises. At the start of the game, the geisha and ronin, collectively known as fugitives, are disguised and hidden among the nobles' establishments. They will appear as normal patrons, but certain actions can reveal their true identities during the game. Whenever a game effect refers to the true geisha or true ronin, it is specifically referring to those characters' cards, which are not in play until they have been revealed by a noble player's loyal actions. Note that when both the true geisha and true ronin are in play, the game will enter the final act. Patron cards. Patron cards are dealt face down to the establishments at the start of the game and contain the following information. Name, which is used only to differentiate them from other patrons. Patron type. This can be either commoner, imperial, samurai, or assassin. Honor value. The player with the highest combined honor value of patrons, including honor tokens they may or may not have, at their establishments takes the first turn during the final act of the game. Ability text. This text resolves only when the patron is interrogated by the rival. Face-down patrons are considered to not have any text, type, or abilities. If a true character is face down, it has disappeared into the population and is not considered for any game effects or winning, even if a player at the table knows their true identity. Now that we've covered your objectives and covered some concepts and information, let's go ahead and learn how to play the game.
How to play. The game starts with the noble player who is seated to the right of the tea house establishment, and then players take turns clockwise until either the final act is triggered or if Motonaka is able to win before the final act. Please note that Motonaka does not take a turn. On a noble player's turn, they will take 2 steps, a loyal action and a secret action. The player aides will guide you if you forget what these are. For your loyal action, you will select from one of 3 possibilities: spy, search, and interrogate. Let's look at each of these in detail. First is the spy action. When choosing the spy action, the noble player will move 2 patrons and then ask Motonaka a question. For movement, you may move patron cards that are face up or face down, as well as the daimyo and rival tokens. Remember, you may not move the daimyo or rival to the temple. Other important things to remember are that an establishment may hold any number of patrons, and that when moving a face-down patron, be sure to keep them face down, and vice versa. When asking Motonaka a question, you will have 3 specific questions you are allowed to ask, and Motonaka will respond with either yes or no. Motonaka knows all of the patrons and players' identities. The 3 questions are: question your neighbor's loyalties. In this, you are asking Motonaka about the noble players to both your left and right in regards to their role. For example, noble, is either of my neighbors a betrayer? Motonaka will respond yes if either neighbor is a betrayer, or no if both neighbors are not the betrayer. The next question is to question a patron type. This question allows a noble player to determine the type of patron either the Ronin or geisha is disguised as. As an example, the noble may ask, is the geisha disguised as a samurai? Motonaka will respond with a yes if the geisha is disguised as any samurai patron, and no if not. The final question for the spy action is to question the face-up suspects. This allows players to determine if the geisha or Ronin is face-up. The player chooses either the geisha or the Ronin for this question. As an example, a noble may ask, is the Ronin face-up? If the patron that the Ronin is disguised as is currently faced up, then Motonaka will respond yes. Otherwise, they state no. A quick note here for the nobles and Motonaka. Motonaka is allowed 1 deception during the course of the game in the form of a lie, with an exception that we will cover in a moment. Motonaka may only use this once for the entire game. Outside of this, they must answer every question truthfully. The next option for the loyal action is to search. First, the noble player will move a patron and also the daimyo token. They will then search the establishment where the daimyo is currently at. To search, take the following steps. Peek at up to 3 patron cards at the daimyo's establishment. You may reveal 1 at minimum, or 2 or 3 of these patrons by flipping them face up. Be warned, however, that for each patron you flip beyond the first one, you will be required to take an additional secret action later. Now the noble will ask Motonaka if they have revealed a fugitive. If 1 or more of the revealed patrons is either the Ronin or the geisha, then Motonaka must state yes and places the suspicion tokens on all of the revealed patron tokens. There are some important notes here to be aware of. If neither the true Ronin or true geisha have been revealed, then you place both tokens for each on each of the cards. If either has already been revealed, then only place the suspicion token of the unrevealed fugitive on those cards. I mentioned earlier about Motonaka's deception having an exception. Motonaka may not lie and say a patron is a fugitive falsely using this lie. If this act results in only 1 card having 1 token on it, and no other card in the game has this token, then this is revealed as the true fugitive. We'll cover that in a little bit. If none of the revealed patrons are the fugitive, then Motonaka simply states no, and the noble's turn continues. The final loyal action is interrogate. For this action, the noble player will move 1 patron and the rival token, and then interrogate 1 patron at the rival's location. To interrogate a face-down patron, choose up to 2 face-down cards and peek at them. Then reveal one of them by flipping it face up, and ask Motonaka if you just revealed a fugitive. If Motonaka responds yes, then place the suspicion tokens on the fugitive as if the search action had been taken on them. This might even unmask the patron as a true fugitive. If Motonaka replies no, then you must perform the action listed on that patron's card to the best of your ability, whether it's in your benefit or not. For the purposes of this how to play, we will not cover those abilities as they are well explained in the ability text. If instead you wish to interrogate a face-up patron, then that patron must have at least one suspicion token present on their card. Ask Motonaka if this patron is either the true Ronin or true geisha. If the response is not, then the appropriate suspicion token is removed from the patron. If yes, then that true fugitive is unmasked. Before we move on to the secret actions, this would be a good time to explain what happens when a true fugitive is unmasked. If a patron card has exactly one suspicion token on it, and no other patron has this token, or if revealed from the interrogate action, then the true fugitive is revealed. Motonaka reveals the mini patron card that was placed under the fugitive's card during setup and replaces the patron with the fugitive's true card. The ability text printed on the true fugitive's card is then activated. Note that if both true fugitives are ever revealed, then the game will proceed to the final act after the current player's turn. Also remember that Motonaka may not use their deception to incorrectly identify a patron as a fugitive. Now, let's look at the secret actions. Remember that if you took the search action earlier, you may have to take more than one secret action. In this case, you must select different actions if you are able to. The available secret actions are Honor the Shogun, Meet the Informant, and Frame Patrons. Let's look at each of these individually. To honor the Shogun, advance the Shogun marker one space along the track and then draw a random honor token from the honor pool. Be sure to keep the values of these tokens hidden from other players at the table. If the Shogun track lands on or passes a space marked with the influence icon, then Motonaka may choose to either draw or play an influence card. For the purposes of this how to play, we will not be covering what these cards do. Please refer to the text on these cards and your rulebook for further explanation. If the marker lands on one of the city markers, reveal that marker to the players at the table. If this shows the city icon, then the Shogun has arrived and Motonaka player has won the game. The next secret action is to meet the informant. This action simply allows Motonaka to either draw or play one influence card. The final secret action is to frame patrons. Select two patrons among those at your establishments who are face up and are clear of suspicion tokens. Flip these patrons face down, leaving them in the same position as before. Note that if you do not have two patrons at your establishments, that you cannot select this action. Once you have completed your secret action or actions, then play proceeds to the next noble player in clockwise order. Play proceeds this way until either Motonaka wins the game or until the final act is triggered, allowing the other players to win. The final act. Once both the true Ronin and true Geisha have been revealed, the active player will finish their turn. After this, the game moves into the final act with the following rule changes being observed. First, the nobles at the table must determine their honor value by adding together the honor values of the patrons at their establishments and any honor tokens that they may have. Deal the initiative card labeled 1 to the player with the highest honor value, the 2 to the next highest player, and onward until all of the nobles at the table have an initiative card. Note, the Motonaka player does not receive an initiative card. In the case of a tie, Motonaka will decide how the tie is broken. Once the initiative cards have been dealt out, play resumes, starting with the player who holds the lowest initiative card and proceeds in order of lowest to highest for the remainder of the game. In addition, the following rule changes happen. Patrons are no longer under suspicion, and as such, the frame patron's secret action may no longer be selected. And most importantly, the noble players at the table may now win the game if their objective is ever met. If at any time a player or players have met their victory objective, then they have won the game. They reveal their roll card and declare their victory. Be very careful here, though, that you have met your conditions, as revealing your roll card incorrectly can damage the experience of the game. Also note that Motonaka can still win the game. Thank you for watching this How to Play for Chiyo's Secret. I hope that this has helped you prepare for your first game. This video was produced using the rules as they were presented during the making of this video. Some changes or revisions may or may not have occurred since the time of this How to Play. Always refer to your most recent rulebook for any changes. Thank you for watching.